Well, there's nobody like John Peachey. He is a one and only. They broke the mould. The one, the only, the original John Peachey joins us on the program. JP, kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora, yeah, thank goodness a lot of people are sighing with relief. There's only one, so yeah.
And hey, talking about DNA this week, because I mean this is something you've got a bit of investment in this one. You were sharing recently about how you're reconnecting with your birth family. There's a few skeletons in the closet. It's a little bit complicated, but blood is blood, I suppose, and being able to make those connections are important. But when it comes to this whole DNA ancestry thing, do you think it's a good thing, John?
Well, can I say it's a dangerous thing in a lot of respects. I've often said that the DNA tells the truth, but it doesn't tell the story.
Yeah.
And I've got many stories now about finding, brothers and sisters and family members, and it's a real risk because one of the greatest risks is the fact that this DNA, tells you that you're connected, but in order to be invited into the family, in order to be invited into the conversation, the relationship, the history, that control doesn't sit with you; it sits with other people. So,
Yeah.
so it's a very dangerous and dodgy kind of an emotional thing to get involved in.
In terms of your own experience, because I know there'll be people to say that will be able to tell stories of, you know what, these weren't people I grew up with. There's no nurture aspect to this, but because we are genetically related, there was some connection that can only be explained by the genetics of it. There was a sense of connection. Was that your experience, John?
Interesting. Meeting some half brothers and sisters, some of it was very natural. It's like we'd known each other all of our lives. And I mean, I'm talking people who, like last weekend in Brisbane, meeting a sister who was just turning 80, and a conversation like we'd just been there 5 minutes earlier. I mean, that was the sort of level of conviviality and congeniality and everything else.
Yeah.
So it was lovely, but it's not always that way. And what I've often found is those who share the adopted pathway are open to conversations and are very open. But those who are part of the genetic family, who've been there all their life, yeah, sometimes not so much and not so keen to discover there's an older brother or an older sister, because that's often what happened with me and a bunch of my friends who were adopted. We had teenage mothers, so we turn up and we're the eldest. And last weekend in Brisbane, meeting my sister, and she's 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
I mean, okay for me because I'm adopted as well, but not so welcoming in other parts. But I tell you, some of the stories, I should write a book about it, really, Andrew, because some of the stories are quite horrific. Finding out that you have brothers, and in two cases, one brother died in a quad bike accident. I met him once.
Yeah.
And then to find out later on he died. No one told me that. And then just recently finding out about a brother. I mean, crazy story. The brother I grew up with is sitting in a bar in Wellington on business,
Yeah.
and texts me and says, "Are you going to join me for a drink?" And I said, "What do you mean?" "I'm sitting in my lounge in Takapuna."
Yeah.
And he said, "You're sitting across the other side of the bar." I said, "No, bro, I'm not." He sent me a photograph of my twin.
Wow.
I'll tell you, looking at a photograph of you and it's not you is a frightening thing. And I said to him, "Go and ask the guy if he's adopted."
Mm.
And my brother's like, no, you'll think I'm trying to pick him up or something. I said, "Go and ask him."
Yeah.
He gets the courage up, goes and asks a complete stranger, a man in his late 50s, "Are you adopted?" The man says yes. And we get into a conversation, and it was my brother.
Wow.
And he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He was gay.
Mm-hmm.
He found his birth mother. She rejected him, and he wanted nothing to do with anyone who was connected with that story. And then I recently found out a few days ago that he died not long after I spoke to him.
Wow.
And you have to be prepared for really uncomfortable stories and the fact that you can get rejected by people. And so DNA is a funny old thing. It means that we're physically connected, genetically connected. You have to ask, where is God in this? I mean,
Yep.
It was part of the family line that he designed us for. Doesn't always work out perfectly, mate.
Mm. Having that opportunity, though, because I mean, hey, this is the nature of of even our relationship with God. Having the opportunity to have relationship, being invited into the family, that is always something where you get to decide for yourself. You get to decide whether or not this is where you want to make a connection, or whether you would just rather say, you know what, I don't want to dig up the past. I don't want to, I've made some choices. This is where I want to go. Perhaps some people are more curious in that regard than others.
Yeah, and for me, and I know that the rest of my family struggle a bit with me. I want details, I want information, I want truth. I want
Yep.
the history, I want to understand it. But the older you get, of course, people have died off, and information has gone with them to the grave, and that's kind of unfortunate. But you absolutely, Andrew, make a decision where you want to sit in that relationship, and it has to be by mutual consent, because it's very clear in some of the stories I've come across that some people don't want anything to do with you. It's a reminder of shame and a past that needs to be forgotten, even though you are technically half brothers and sisters, nephews and nieces and so forth. But the interesting thing was, when I met my sister in Australia, and it was a natural thing, what we could say was, look, 80 years nearly have gone past, but we have a future together. There's a future that we can build, and what's gone is gone. And it's unfortunate that we've lost all that time, but we can have what we have left. And then I meet her family. She's got 4 sons and daughters, and they're really welcoming, and looking at them, weird thing, looking at my sister's daughter, who's my niece,
Yep.
and understanding that her grandmother is my mother. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
So it's, I believe this is, the people who love you are family. Jesus said, "Who are my brothers? Who is my mother?" Right? And I think that there's a truth here that the people who love you and care for you are family. And so while it is blood, I think it is action as much as it is genetic connection.
Things are different now than they were back in the day, and perhaps the situation that you find yourself in, where you are discovering a family connection that you didn't know existed. Perhaps in the future things will be more open, that there will be, with open adoptions and people knowing their whakapapa and who they're genetically connected to, from the beginning. Is that a better thing in your view, John?
It's a great question, Andrew, because, for me, I had a mother who sealed the files. So technically, when you
Yeah.
adopt a child out, you can decide whether its information is available or not. And when you use the word whakapapa, it's interesting, because I think a lot of Maori would be horrified at the way that the law works now, is that technically I can still be prevented as a man of 62 from finding out where I came from by the law.
Yeah.
That for me is actually highly offensive. And I think even for tangata whenua, it's even more offensive, that if you try to shut people out. But I think openness is interesting. I'm not sure that I agree with open adoption as children.
Yeah.
Is that when you're trying to bond with an adopted child, that you have this other people kind of circling around? I don't know. For me, that would feel uncomfortable. But I do think truth is important. My closest friend found out in his 30s that he was adopted.
Yeah.
Because it was a secret, and you think, wow, did that benefit him? No, I don't think it did. So at some point, when you're an adult and when you understand, I was always told I was adopted from a child. So
Yeah.
but the term, I don't think I really understood the term fully, but it wasn't until my early 20s when I started looking for my birth parents, and that itself caused upset with the family. People start mixed allegiances. It's crazy, really. Even though that information belongs to you, people got upset with me. And I have a sister who I grew up with is still upset with me because I went looking, and I was disloyal to the family, quote unquote. So
Wow.
it's interesting. So I think it's very individual. But information, truth might hurt, but it can't kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Truth is so important, but in the context of people having choices of what they do with that and how they respond. John, thank you so much for No, I was just
going to say, I mean, when you run into people and they go, "Oh, you look just like your father, just like your grandfather," you want to know details on that. So it's a tricky old journey.
It is. And hey, thank you so much for your transparency in sharing this. I know there'll be people listening to this at the moment which can relate and connect with your story in different ways. JP, thanks for what you do. Of course, you can find out more information at the Think Farm. Thethinkfarm.org for more information on that. John, thanks for being part of the program today.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.